Hello and welcome to another CH-47 tutorial that we're putting together. Today we're going to cover sling loads and some of the activities that you need to do on the CH-47, or that we found that you need to do on the CH-47 to do sling loads, or external loads as they're properly called. The first thing that we need to talk about the bindings. I've already done my bindings, so don't worry about what I've got set. What we're going to show is the things that you need to set. What you bind them to is completely up to you. One of the first things is the hook selector switch. The cargo hook selector switch. Aft, all, forward, mid. The one that we find that you actually need is the all position. With the all position, you're selecting all of the cargo hooks, and that's the one that it seems that we need to be in order to actually pick up cargo. You don't actually have to bind this. It is in the cockpit right here, and if you just roll that switch over to all, it has the same effect. We've been hoping for the hooks to be implemented correctly, so we have it bound to a switch, but you can't. For the cargo hook selector, you can actually do that with the in-cockpit control, because once you set it to all, that's pretty much where you're going to leave it for now. The other ones, the hook arm and reset switch. This is the cargo hook armed switch. You want to set the arm position, and ultimately you're going to want the reset position, but the way that we do this is we use the arm position and then the move backward position. Arm is all the way forward, reset is all the way backward. You can do this with just the move forward and backward if you want. You can do this however you want. If you've got a 3-position switch, do arm, off, and reset. But you need the arm, and you need to be able to get to reset. The reset is for clearing a master caution that you'll get after dropping off cargo. One thing that is important to note here, there is 2 sets of controls that appear to be the same, and they're not for the pilot. The cargo hook arm switch is the pilot's control, and then the cargo hook arming switch, it's listed as the hoist operator's panel. If you're in the pilot position and you're using these mappings, they don't appear to work from the pilot's position. So as a pilot, you want cargo hook arm switch, and again, the arm and the reset. Next thing that you're going to want is on flight control, the cargo hook release switch cover. The position that you need to map is the open position. There is a toggle position you can use. We have mapped the open and the closed position for the cover. This is a switch cover on the actual cyclic that you need to pop open in order to hit the cargo hook release push button, which is under that cover. So in sim, you have to open the release switch cover before you can hit the cargo hook release push button and have it work. The last thing that we recommend, especially for people who aren't psychic, is the external cargo indicator. This is a window it's a sim thing. It's a window that pops up that will show you where the cargo that you've selected is in relation to your helicopter. You can use it for positioning your hovering and also your altitude. If you're completely new to external loads, this might be the first time you've seen it. If you have been doing external loads on other helicopters, it's implemented. As I said, it's a sim thing. It's implemented on all the helicopters we fly that do external cargo. Having covered the bindings, we're going to go ahead and start this up, and we're not going to bore you with our startup procedure. Now that we've started the helicopter, we're going to go over the radios. Nope, we're not. We're going to do that as bonus content. So stick around after. We'll do the radios that we didn't promise we were going to do, but we plan to. Now that we've started the helicopter, let's go ahead and do our cargo pickup. We are sitting on the deck of USS Tarawa, and we have some cargo modules that are behind the tower, which is behind us. You can't see it from our current position. And so the first thing we need to do, well, let's go ahead and get into a hover. So now that we've cleared the deck, we're going to go ahead and do our first cargo pickup. First thing I'm going to do is slow down our hover here and let the ship pass us so that we'll be able to see what it is we're doing. Now, we could also fly in orbit or do any of those things, but we're just basically letting the ship go by. And so you'll see our cargo stacked out on the deck there. We're going to grab one of those ISO modules at the end because they are heavy and they will probably swing around a little less on us. Unless we get them swinging, in which case they will whip the helicopter around like a yo-yo. Alright, so the first thing we need to do to pick one up is we need to select all cargoes, and we're going to pick that 7,000 pound ISO container small. You see they've marked it with red smoke. I'm going to arm our hookup switch. And we mentioned the cargo position indicator. That looks like that. It's the green block in the upper right hand corner. The red dot in that is the cargo that we're picking up. The crosshair is our helicopter, so everything is relative to us. The vertical bar on the right, the circle is our altitude relative to the, relative to the ground actually, but it should be relative to the cargo, but it's not. As we get closer over the deck, that will probably jump down, as the deck is actually considerably higher than the ocean that we're currently over. Alright, we're going to approach slowly, and the idea is to hover directly over the cargo, but there is kind of a big margin there.
Forward 30. In position. Tight and secured. We're good to go. Cargo is hooked.
Now that we've hooked,
Good job.
we're going to
Lines
stay
tight.
above it. Gain
Load
some
hang
altitude.
steady.
Go straight up. And then we want to move slightly away from the carrier. Give us some forward velocity. When you're carrying external loads, you want everything to be smooth. You want your
Load is swinging
transitions.
fore and aft.
You want
10.
your transitions to be smooth, because if you start jerking around, cargo is going to pendulum on you. And as it pendulums, it will whip the plane around. It can also break the rope, break the plane, break the cargo, break stuff on the ground. It's just generally a bad situation.
Load is swinging side to side. 30. Load is swinging side to side. 10.
So that swinging is the cargo penduluming in under us. 30 is 30 feet of swing, which is quite a lot, actually. It's wider than the plane.
Load is hanging steady.
Okay, hanging steady is good. I'm going to start doing our turn again. Probably getting a little swing. I'm keeping the speed low because as we get higher in speed, air resistance against the cargo will actually buffet it and start swinging around just because we're going fast. Also, because I'm doing this as a tutorial and I'm trying to explain what I'm doing while I'm doing it. And this is actually one of the more difficult ways of doing this. This is a ship-to-ship transfer. We're doing naval operations with an Army helicopter. Now, as we come up, we're going to do our approach. These ships are moving, They're actually doing a fairly impressive clip, and there is a wind in this. It's a 17-knot wind involved in this. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and we're one of them. And what we're trying to do is keep everything smooth and steady as we approach our destination point. This helicopter is so big it actually cannot land on that cruiser, which is to say it can land on the cruiser, but the tail end of it is almost hanging off the deck, so you can't handle cargo. You can't handle internal cargo from a CH-47 Chinook on a cruiser. There's just not enough room on the helipad, which is why we're doing a sling load or an external load. What we're going to do is we're going to put the cargo that we're carrying externally on the end of the rope onto the deck. We have our cargo hook arm switch in the arm position so that we can remote activate it and open it. One of the other binds that we talked about is the cargo release cover switch. That's right there. Now, I tend to leave that covered until I'm actually on the ground, and then I pop it open and hit the button. Or I'm almost on the ground. I keep it covered until I'm about to use it. And I might look down when I do that. Now, we have a 50-foot rope, so that cargo is actually 50 feet below us, which means that it is currently
Lotus wing fore and aft.
50 feet off
10.
currently only 50 feet off the water. So we actually want to come up a little bit
10.
so that we're over the deck. So we're higher than the deck. We want to be close so we don't have to hover and descend very long. But we still want to be above where we're
Lotus wing fore and aft.
I'm using
10.
Alright, there we go. I'm about where I want to be forward and aft, but I'm not quite where I want to be left and right. Alright, so I'm using the tower on the ship as my visual reference point for the hover. Ships actually make this a little easier than on the ground because they give us this nice tower that's a good reference point, and it's tall, so we're actually going to be below the tower when we set this down.
Lotus wing fore and aft. 10.
Now it's doing that because I was bouncing around. I'm also
Lotus wing fore and aft. 10.
Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and descend.
Third to ground. Third to ground.
It's 30, she
Third to
said.
ground. 10 to ground. 10 to ground. 10 to ground.
Okay, we're off the ship because we descended quite a bit, and she said we're still 10. Just
30 to ground.
Here.
10 to ground.
No, we're too far forward. We're too far forward.
30 to ground.
I tried to make this smooth. That didn't happen.
30 to ground.
You know what they say, go-arounds are free.
30 to ground. 10 to ground. 3 to ground.
Right
Touchdown.
Okay, now that we've touched down, I'm going to actually descend a little more to put slack on the rope. And I'm going to pause and show our position. So you see we're actually exactly where I wanted to be. Well, alright. On the line counts as the higher score. So we're exactly where I wanted to be. Not quite bullseye, but close enough. We're definitely on the ship. We're definitely in position. The procedure again is I'm going to open that cargo hook release, and I'm then going to push the button that's under it, which is the cargo release button. I have already armed my hook, which you see here. The hook is in the arm position. Alright, now I'm going to unpause. Now when I'm doing this release, I'm going to stay below 50 feet over the deck because that's the length of the rope. But also because by keeping the rope slack, all of the weight of the cargo is not on the helicopter anymore, it's on the deck. And so when I actually release it, I won't have any weight change. And we saw this was 7,000 pounds, so that's quite a bit of weight change. If that rope is tight and we're actually taking some of that weight, we might even actually have it airborne, and if we suddenly release it, we're going to shoot into the sky because we're going to have a sudden 7,000 pound drop in weight while we're hovering. And the cargo is going to fall the distance and break. So I'm going to unpause. The procedure again is going to be open the cargo hook release cover and then hit the cargo hook release button while keeping the helicopter low, below 50 feet. So descend a little bit, open that cover.
Cargo is unhooked.
There we go. Now that it's unhooked, we can start taking our altitude back up so that we don't bounce off the boat. Now, when we released, you saw the master caution came on, and we get an indication that our hooks are open. And this is why we wanted to bind the ability to bind that reset position. So we're in the arm. I'm rolling mine back to reset. That resets the hooks and clears that master caution. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close that hook release cover because I have that bound. Now, I'm intentionally not flying way away from the ship so that I can show... There's our cargo box, right where we left it, right as it should be. And that was a ship-to-ship cargo transfer. And now we're going to fly back to Tarawa. Well, USS Tarawa. We're not actually going to fly to Tarawa. We don't have enough fuel for that for where we are in Marianas. Depending on which version of the audio I used, we teased some bonus content about radios. With the latest patch, 30 October 2024, there were changes to the Chinook's radios. Unfortunately, one of those changes actually broke part of the TACAN. So one of the things that we showed earlier in another tutorial is the TACAN usage, and that has changed slightly because of the thing that is broken. So we're going to set our overlay. We're going to put our TACAN bearing on our overlay, which you don't see because we don't have a TACAN tuned in. We come over here to the CDU, and we select CNI over to TACAN, and we're going to select 7.2 X-ray, because that is USS Abraham Lincoln, which you see right over there. Now, because we've selected it, we've tuned it in, you can see a TACAN bearing indicator on our overlay. Now you notice it shows 0 nautical miles. That's because we haven't turned on the DME. And the bug that I'm talking about is on TACAN. I'm selecting TACAN. These are the TACAN settings. The mode is receive. This button that should be changing it to transmit receive, which is what turns on the DME, that's not working anymore. So that's actually broken. That is a bug as of the 30 October 2024 patch. But as far as a heading indicator, it still works. It still works in receive mode, which is what we have displayed. But the other cool thing, again, CNI, we have our comms radios. They've changed the radio so that you can tune more things. Unfortunately, we can't direct tune it. So these are the various radios. The U2 radio, or UHF-2 radio, is the one that is actually bound to the push-to-talk for VoIP and is your general radio. Now, the ships in our formation here are on 127.5. We cannot tune that. This is where that control would be. So what we can do is we can select the radio, the U2, it's UHF-2 radio, select that button, and we go to presets. Now we're going to set up a preset for ship, because that's the ships. We're going to set it to position 3. So position 3 is ship, aux CDR, IMWE, and we're going to set 1, 2, sorry, 127.5, and we're going to set ship to 127.5, and you see there that our preset number 3 is now ship. So if we hit 1, which is what it was, and we go CNI, again we see aux CDR, but if we hit that, select presets, and then pick the number 3 with nothing on the scratch pad, CNI, we see that our UHF-2 radio is now on preset number 3, ship, which is 127.5. And if we call, now unfortunately they still don't, the ships still don't answer us, but that is how you can tune your radio now. You do have to do it through presets. So for example, if we were if my squadron was communicating on 351 during my multiplayer mission, I might set SQ comms and set that as preset 1 and say, what did I say, 327. So now my preset for squadron comms is 327. I can hit that and go back to CNI, and I see that I'm squadron comms. I need to talk to air traffic control ship. Go, presets, 3, CNI, there we are, ship. So we can now tune that radio using the CDU. It is actually the only way to tune that radio, but at the moment that I've been able to determine. And so the UHF-2 radio is our VoIP radio, and we have the ability to change our channel through use of presets. And that is our tutorial. We hope that you found this entertaining somewhat and useful quite a bit.